In this video, I will explain how to train for strength or muscle building and cardio for optimal fat loss as a beginner. First, let's define who classify as a beginner when it comes down to strength or resistance training and cardio training. To me personally, is anyone with 8 months or less of experience. This person is still learning fundamental lifts such as squat, hip hinge variation, or a press variation. In general, common characteristics of a beginner are they are inconsistent or new to regular exercise. They're still developing baseline fitness, learning proper movement skills, and developing exercise habits. They need simple structured program that emphasizes on safety, learning basic movements, and steady progressions. Now let's talk about the goals of resistance training when it comes down to fat loss. The goal of resistance training is to preserve or even build muscle when we're trying to lose fat, and that is possible especially for the beginners. When you are more advanced lifter and you're trying to lose fat, the goal is primarily muscle preservation. However, if you are a beginner, you can build muscle and lose fat in the same time. The resistance training also is going to allow us to change the composition of the body. It's going to give you that lean and more athletic look, and it's going to give you a shape. If we just focusing on cardio and eating less for fat loss without the resistance training, we're gonna kind of look skinny fat, because yes, we're gonna lose fat, but we're also gonna lose a lot of muscle, which is gonna impact your body composition. The resistance training also is gonna help you with metabolism, improve your insulin sensitivity, it's gonna improve your overall strength, it's gonna be beneficial for your bones, for your joints. So there's many different health components as well to incorporate with the resistance training. Now let's talk about how to train for strength or muscle building as a beginner for fat loss. When it comes down to exercise selection, we're going to be primarily focusing on multi-joint, multi-muscle group compound movements such as a squat variation, a hip hinge variation, and a press and pull, because that's going to give us more bang to our back, because it's going to allow us to train more muscles in the same time, so it's going to be more time efficient. We can also supplement with some isolation exercises for smaller muscle groups like the tricep, bicep, shoulder, so on and so forth, but the ballpark of our training is going to be focused on compound movements. The frequency of the training, we're going to look at between 2 to 3 times per week full body resistance training. That's gonna be enough for the beginner, because they gonna have those newbie gains, so they are very sensitive to the stimulus and they're gonna get great results with a low frequency. So it's not necessary to train 5 times a week. For the beginner, if you're doing proper training with proper intensity, properly structured 2 and 3 times a week with full body is gonna be enough. For the beginner, I like to recommend anywhere between 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 sets per exercise, 8 to 12 repetitions per set, and train each muscle twice a week. And when it comes down to intensity, we want to look at light to moderate intensity, at least initially, to make sure that you're performing the exercises safely. If you're feeling comfortable with the exercises and you're doing them safely, then we can challenge you to more intense weights, where we're looking at 5 or less reps in reserve on the lifts, meaning that let's say you've been doing a squat for 10 reps, but you were able to do 15. So that's 5 reps left in the tank, or 5 reps in reserve. So for the beginner, I like to be 5 or less reps in reserve. It's not necessarily, and I think it's not advisable to go to failure and max out as a beginner, because they don't have proficiency and the efficiency with the movement technically, and it's going to increase the risk for injuries. So maybe 2 or 3 reps shy from failure would be enough intensity for the beginners. Also, I recommend to incorporate linear progression, meaning that each week we're gonna try to increase either repetitions on our exercises or increase a little bit of weight, maybe 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds weekly. We want to track our weights, we want to track our reps and our performance, and then maybe 4 to 5 weeks of following a specific routine of exercises. Then we can change our approach and change our program, but not too frequently, so you have enough time to learn the proper movement and be able to progressively overload. Now let's talk about the goals of the cardiovascular training. That's going to be obviously beneficial for our heart, for our lung capacity. It's going to allow us to burn more calories, and it's going to allow us to improve our energy, our endurance, and our ability to recover. The cardiovascular training, when it comes down to intensity, we're going to be focusing low to moderate intensity, depending on the individual's abilities and fitness level. When it comes down to forms of cardio, we're going to be focusing on basic forms of cardio, such as cycling, walking on the treadmill, maybe jogging, playing different sports that you enjoy. The key is to find something that you can be consistent with it and something that you enjoy, because if you enjoy something, you're gonna be more consistent with it. So now let's talk about how we're gonna train for cardio to optimize fat loss. And we can focus on low to moderate intensity cardio, 2 to 4 sessions per week of cardiovascular training for the beginner. The length, maybe you can start with 10 to 15 minutes and then progressively increase the length with time. Now let's just recap and summarize everything. When it comes down to resistance training, we're going to be looking at full body strength workouts 2 to 3 times a week, prioritizing compound movements such as a squat variation, press and pull, and hip hinge variation. We're gonna look at 2 to 3 or even 4 sets per muscle group, focusing on a proper form, making sure that we have a good range of motion and performing the exercises safely with intensity around 5 or less reps in reserve. So low to moderate intensity. We don't want to go crazy, especially on the beginning. And we want to make sure that we progressively overloading each week. Cardiovascular training, we're going to be looking at 2 to 3 times a week, anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes per session. Now, I also want to stress that the resistance training and the cardio training is going to be very helpful for fat loss. Also, it's going to allow us to burn more calories and build muscle and change the composition of our body. But when it comes down to fat loss, the most important thing is our nutrition. So we want to make sure that we are in a calorie deficit for fat loss, meaning that we're consuming less energy that we are burning. We want to make sure that we're getting enough protein, around 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, prioritizing whole, minimally processed whole foods such as fruits, vegetables, complex carbohydrates like sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, rice, quinoa, and we also drinking enough water, eating healthy fats like avocado, walnuts, getting enough sleep, and recovering properly. So that's going to be the most important thing when it comes down to fat loss. So I want to stress that because that's the key when it comes down to fat loss. The training is going to help, but the nutrition is going to be the most important thing. So now let's go over a sample workout that incorporates resistance training and the cardio with 2 or 3 times a week options. So for example, on day 1, we can do some type of a squat variation, like a goblet squat, followed up by a hip hinge variation, like maybe dumbbell Romanian deadlift. And then we can do some type of a press and pull, like push up, supersetting that with lat pull down, 2 to 3 sets per exercise, 8 to 12 repetitions. We might also incorporate some isolation exercises for shoulders, bicep, and tricep. For example, we can do ladder raises followed up by dumbbell bicep curl and then dumbbell skull crushers. And after that session, we can do some cardio, like maybe 15 to 20 minutes cycling on the bike. And day 2, we can repeat the same system or the same style of training, but maybe change the variation of the exercises. So instead of maybe doing a goblet squat, we can do walking lunges, then hamstring curls, incline dumbbell press, followed up by a single arm row, and then some type of superset exercises for smaller muscle groups like shoulders, so we can maybe do dumbbell upright rows with tricep extensions with the straight bar or tricep push down, and then maybe we can do seated bicep curl with the dumbbells, and then after that again 20 to 30 minutes of some type of a cardio variation that you enjoy. It can be cycling, rowing machine, Stairmaster, whatever you prefer. So that would be a simple 2 times a week format. 3 times a week, it can be the same full body strength. You can just change different variation of the exercises each day, so you can work muscles from different angles and it's not as repetitive or boring for you. If you need 2 or 3 times a week full body resistance training plus endurance training plan for fat loss, please let me know in the comment. I will send you a link with the training plan that is customized based on your needs. And otherwise, thank you for watching the video. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.